Thank you. Let me know if you
Thank
need
you. I
anything.
appreciate it. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people would come in to have their wedding pictures taken
Oh,
in front of
yes.
that.
Uh-huh.
And
Sure.
some even got married in front of that. And it went back, I would say probably 50, 60 feet. And, but anyway,
Wow, yeah,
yeah,
that's really pretty.
yep. And by the way, this picture was taken probably in the late 40s or early 50s. There wasn't color film to do it. I have
So you have it
the
colorized?
original at home. It was done by hand. The coloring was done absolutely by hand. So the picture, it's a big picture about like this, and lovely picture. Okay. Well, thanks for taking time.
There's a big famous flower farmer in recent years, famous. She's kind of, when social media she got on board at the right time on that. And her name's Floral, and she's in Washington State. And she's starting to get people into breeding their own flowers.
Ah, cool.
She just sold some seeds that she had done on her farm and come up with some new varieties
Good for
and
her.
things. So
Good for her.
that's kind of an art that's faded, and I think
Yeah.
it maybe has a revival coming back.
Well, hope so.
Yeah, because I think a
know.
lot of those old antique roses, in special roses like that,
Yeah.
the gardeners, whenever they passed, a lot of times those roses and things passed with them. So.
Well, I'm happy I could share that with you.
Yeah, I am
So,
too.
well, thank you so much.
It's beautiful. Good.
We'll get started.
So what's it going to be like? How long is your, you know, how long is your season?
Oh, season.
Tomorrow starts and you're going crazy until when?
Fast and furious.
Does your flower season like change?
Well, it
like,
does.
these
The
kind of
ranunculus
flowers
are
and then
about a week, and yeah, we have wildflowers a little bit more, but then the rest of the time I grow for brides. So I'm not
so-
really just open to the
so you're
public
doing
2 times a
weddings.
year.
Yes, it's on. You want to gather over here and have a seat? I hate to interrupt the good fellowship that's taking place, but I will. And you all who thought you were on the back row, you could move things have kind of get shuffled a little bit in March and April, but we're kind of getting it all back together. I will have signups out soon for April events. There are two, there are there's information on the table. April 5th, we have Miles Pike coming back. I think you all remember Miles Pike. Amazing, amazing voice and the things that he does. When he does the quartet with his background, it's all his voice in every one of those sections. And then he'll stop and say, now I'm going to sing the bass. And he sings the bass part and the other ones, but it's all his voice. So he's fun. We're glad to have him. And so that'll be April 5th. Next week is Good Friday. So I would encourage you to come and participate in the Good Friday service. Several people in this room will be assisting in the Good Friday service. And I'm going to pick you out right now. No, I'm joking. Mary and Ellen and Kathy and Nona and Ruth Ann. So make sure that you plan on coming. It's at noon, and then after we're going to Laguna Madre for lunch to get fish on Good Friday. If you want to join us, you can, but you don't have to if you don't like fish. So that's happening next week, and then Miles Pike will be here on Friday. And then on the 3rd of April, we are getting together to go help pack snack packs for kids. Remember we had the speakers here, and we're going to go actually to their warehouse and help do the actual packing of the snack packs. And we'll run a shuttle from here. I'll get that information out to you as quickly as I can at this point. I don't believe there are chairs. I will double check. You probably could. Yeah, bring a folding chair just in case. But I think that, well, you've been there. Yeah, there's no place to sit. So you're the expert on that. So. And certainly we don't want folks to have problems standing. And it's about an hour and a half, right? I'll get that information out. Any other things that?
You're busy.
April 12th, Ron Skates will be back, but he's going to be sharing about his trip to Indonesia. And that was recent. And there may be some other folks that went with him. I think there were four altogether that went on that trip, trying to recruit some others, but Ron Skates will be the one who's wrangling that group. And so that'll be on the 12th. And then on the 19th, we have King Antonio coming. And we have the mariachi girls coming as well. And I know we enjoyed that group. He will be here, I think the last communication I got from him, it changes depending on his schedule. I think he's coming at 11. But they tried to have me invite him to come on Wednesday, and I said, that's not going to work for us. So. And sometimes they run early and they stay here longer because they like us. So that's happening the 19th. And then the week after that, I believe, is Battle of Flowers. So we won't meet that week. Okay, any other announcements? I did see Jack, Wright, and Liz
Oh, it's Krkosa. So it's a little hard.
Misty Krkosa.
When my mom asked me, when I've just been married to Tim for, I guess it's going to be 5 years this August. But my mom said, "What's his last name?" I said, Krkosa. She said, "Have fun with that." It's Krkos. I think it's a Czech origin, but yeah, so that's.
And Misty comes to us from Misty Acres. Any significance in the name of the place?
Yeah, there is.
It comes from Misty Acres. It's a flower farm or a flower.
Yeah, it's a boutique flower farm.
And so tomorrow is a big surge in her flowers, so we're glad that she was willing to come today. And then she'll share a little bit about what she does, what Misty Acres is, and then we have some flower arrangements for you to play with. And she'll guide us. Take that home with you, and there won't be any charge to you for that. That way it'll be easier. We won't have to collect any money. So thank you for being
Thank
with
you.
us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. Ellen called me. I think she saw one of our Facebook ads and reached out, and I just really think that God puts people in your life for a reason. And I've been looking forward to coming here, even though blooms don't really wait. And so they've started to really bloom, and it's going to be our prime season for the next 3 weeks on the ranunculus. But, okay. So this PowerPoint here is some wildflowers last year. That's our actual wildflowers in our field, some delphinium and poppies, California poppies, and some corn poppies in that picture. So last year I was looking at, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to talk to you about my flower journey and the main features of our farm, the meaning of flowers in life, and the symbolism of the flowers that I brought today, and then kind of summarize things. So my flower journey, and Pastor Joe asked, is there any significance in the name? So originally I started out Misty Acres because I had a business partner. And I was going to bring the floral design background, and she was going to bring the acres and the property. And so we've kind of shifted. She had small children, and I guess about 1.5 years into it, it was just a lot. And so now it's just me, mainly, one-woman show, and my husband. But going back, I'm sorry. I was going to start, have y'all ever heard of the religion Presbyterian? No. One of my favorite bosses, he said his mom was Presbyterian because she lived in a little community, a country church, and there was a Presbyterian preacher one Sunday, a Baptist preacher one Sunday, and a Methodist preacher one Sunday, and they were Presbyterian. So Misty Acres kind of started with the Presbyterian roots, and I know some of you noticed that I'm doing a workshop down at the New Braunfels Presbyterian Church. And how I came to this area was pickleball. I was teaching online mostly at Temple College, and I learned about pickleball in Colorado, and I came down to New Braunfels with my motorhome, and I would go back and forth because my grandmother was still alive, and I would see her some days, and then I would come down to New Braunfels to play pickleball. And the introductory place to play pickleball was at the Presbyterian Church. And so they had 2 courts there, and it's a really nice ministry that they have, and I met a lot of nice folks and got the pickleball foundation. My skills grew them, and now I play pickleball. So how that ties into Misty Acres is my business partner and I met playing pickleball. This idea first started that I had insomnia for about 3 years, really bad. And so I get on the internet at night And I would see things. And one night, probably at midnight or 1 o'clock, do you make your best decisions at that time of the day? No, I signed up for a flower arranging workshop in Virginia. And so I went up there, and it was a beautiful flower farm, and I didn't know that the lady that was putting it on, it was called Hope Flower Farm, and she was the Martha Stewart of flowers, and here I was at her conference. And the people, at the time, I just wanted to do flower parties, kind of like what we're doing today. Everybody gets together, makes a little pretty flower arrangement. You get to take it home and enjoy it. And that's kind of what I first envisioned for doing flowers. This is going to be something I did while I taught school. So I go up there, and the first speaker made a beautiful arrangement. And somebody asked him, I hadn't even thought about doing weddings at this point. Someone asked him what his minimum charge was a wedding, and he said $15,000. Whoa. I was thinking, like a $60 flower arrangement. So they made some beautiful stuff, but it kind of built my confidence. I'd worked with floral design. I'd taken a few workshops, but I thought, I can do that, and saw them, and I felt their style blended with mine, and that kind of planted the seed. And we're going to talk about planting seeds and how that pays off, So that was kind of the seed that got planted, and then I moved to New Braunfels, started playing pickleball, and I told my friend Shannon, and she was younger than me, and I said, I want to do a flower party. Then she said, well, I have a new house. We can have it there. So then COVID hit. So about 6 months into that, she said, I just really feel the urge to grow. And so I have this 10 acres out here, and would you like to grow some flowers? And then, whenever we get out of lockdown, maybe we can do the flower parties. So we did, and have you ever heard of black gumbo? It's a black soil that has a lot of clay in it. It holds the water. It's real temperamental. I grew up with black gumbo soil in the Gatesville area by Waco. I'm a native Texan, if you can't tell. And we always dreamed of having sandy loam and having post oak trees, because that black gumbo is hard to work with. So she had black gumbo, and first time we went to break it up, it was hilarious. It was bouncing us all over the place. But we had some experimental flowers there. We planted a little bit of everything to see what grew. And with COVID, I don't know if I'm the only one, but the years kind of blur for me a little bit. But what year was it? Was it 2020 when we had that ice storm? 2021. So these ranunculus came through that. We protect them as best we could, but boy, it got down cold for several days. And they were one of the few survivors. So that kind of stuck in my mind. And then when real estate was so crazy and things were selling within minutes, do you remember that? That's whenever I started looking for sandy loam, and got the 5 acres for Misty Acres. So the next year we shifted over to where the farm is now, and Shannon was there at first, and now it's just me. So whenever at the end of COVID, instead of doing, we built a website and put some information out there, and all of a sudden, all the brides that couldn't get married during COVID were reaching out to us. And so we ended up doing 12 weddings our first year, and that was in a period of three months when everything kind of lifted at the end of whatever year that was. And then the next year, and I've continued to do weddings because I enjoy the different creativity, and I just do it a couple of weekends a month or 1 weekend a month, because I still want, there's so much more freedom these days in your business structure about the balance of life. And that's kind of Misty Acres. I do weddings most of the time, and I grow special things for bridal bouquets most of the year. But I open up the farm in the spring with ranunculus to these you-pick events. So we have a morning and afternoon where you can stroll through the garden and pick flowers. And then my husband and I said, we want this to be something that we can enjoy. And we have these little tables, and we put those in the garden, and we have dinners in the garden. And I've got a slide on that, but that's kind of how we want to enjoy it. And that's just kind of how Misty Acres evolved. We're open a few weekends in the spring to the public and then in the fall. And we may expand. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But a lot of times I'm doing weddings, or I really enjoy doing these workshops. So that's this picture here is taken from inside the garden. That's our sunflowers that we have growing there. And actually to the left, there's a little lighted stage so that we had music and we had people eating in the garden that night. And we have a real pretty area. It's only 5 acres, but we're surrounded by some big ranches, so it feels bigger. And it's real quiet. So that's actually a dinner in the garden picture with the sunflowers. These are pro-cut sunflowers. I do one big bloom, and they're pollenless. So it's a special kind of sunflower. So the main features of the farm. So my mom taught me all the different kinds of trees growing up. And we always dreamed of having post oak trees in sand. And so one of the main features of our farm are our post oak trees. So the post oak trees, if you can see, they kind of make a cross, especially the bigger one on the left there. Their branches and their leaves kind of make a cross shape. Do you see that cross shape? On their leaves, the veins come together with the lobes. These are real young, but it kind of makes, you have to be kind of like an ink blot test. You can kind of see the cross shape, the way the branches of the trees and the leaf does also. So living in sand, what does the Bible say about living in sand? It's not a good thing. So some things about living in sand is for ranunculus, they're kind of a bulb or a chrome, and they don't like it wet. So the sand works real good for them because it's drained well. But we have to plant our sunflowers in the end of August, 1st of September, for them to bloom in October. And usually I do 3 sets. Just go out there, sunflowers easy, they're big seeds, and I plant them and they're up. Well, this year in that 110-degree weather, I was putting seeds in the ground. It felt like it was burning my finger, but it really wasn't. I had to plant those 9 different times. And the sunflowers, it was so hot that sunflowers weren't sprouting. And I didn't even look until I had to do my taxes, how much my water bill was. It was $2,000. So sunflowers, living in sand, that was the hard part about it, but we did have a nice crop in the garden. I was trying to get them out in the field and have a big stand out there, but last year wasn't the time to do it. So we will have sunflowers in the garden. Just depending on the heat and how this summer goes. I don't know if we'll have a bunch of them out in the field, but they're beautiful in the garden. So that's one thing about our post oak trees. I'd always dreamed of living in the post oak savanna. So that ecoregion in Texas goes up near Dallas and kind of comes straight down, and Seguin is kind of the south corner of that post oak savanna of Texas. How old are those trees? You know, I don't know how old the trees are, but they say it takes them 10 years to grow 3 inches. So, and I've got one that's really big. It looks like a live oak, but it's actually a post oak. It has big limbs that go out. So there's hundreds of years old. My husband probably knows that. Sometimes I don't do the number thing. He probably said, oh, they're so many years old. He's probably thought about that. I haven't thought about their age. Sorry about that. Really old. So another feature that we have some native phlox on the farm. And here these guys, I was going to include them in our little bouquets, but yesterday I cut everything kind of during a little light rain, because that's when I had time. And these had folded up and they weren't looking good. And I said, well, I can't take those flowers to them, but they perked up and dried off. I guess I should have. But these are Drummond phlox. So I don't know if you've ever seen these flowers. The first time I saw them were in my great-grandmother. I lived across the street from my dad's mom, and his grandmother, her home place was still across the street from us, my great-grandmother. I never met her. My name is Misty Dawn. She came up with the Dawn in the middle name. So I never met her, but we had sand there where we lived, and she had these growing in her garden, and she had probably 10 or 15 different colors. So these are native to Texas, but you see them all throughout the United States. There's 2,000 different colors and varieties of these. So in 1835, Thomas Drummond of Scotland came over here to Texas and collected seeds, and he took them back to England. And they were exotic, and a lot of people think that they originated in England. But really, they're a Texas native that was taken back to England in 1835. Have any of y'all ever been to the Lindenheimer Museum down in New Braunfels? Texas's first botanist lived in New Braunfels, and there's a little historical house down here, and he helped with the founding of New Braunfels, and even was editor of the German newspaper there for years. So I like to include a lot of native things in my floral designs. So one thing, especially when you've ever worked with your spouse on something, there's some little grass. I tried to get them all off with a little paintbrush, but you may see some grass shavings on some of the ranunculus because Tim took off the mulcher because he thought it was cutting uneven. But now my flowers have a little specks of grass, but I think that they're going to be okay. The other thing is whenever we first bought this property, I knew native flowers and stuff, and Tim's originally from Montana, was in the military and traveled around. But I've always liked this weed since I was little. And so him and another guy, they would get upset with me because I bought the place. It was a hoarder. There was some jet skis buried in the sand and all kinds of junk all over the place. There's an old car, a 1952 Chevrolet that I have under a tree that they left there that was good. But here you are cleaning all this stuff up, and we're trying to get ready for our first Bloom Fest, and I'm saying, don't pull that. Leave that there. Don't pull that. Don't pull that. It's not a weed. So last year I collected a whole bunch of these, and they dry beautifully, make a really nice natural texture. And I tint them different colors, especially for budget brides that want like a blue or some kind of exotic color. And I tint those different colors and put them in bridal bouquets. But so I try to use different textures. I just had a wedding in Wimberley where I did all dried grasses that I collected. And that's another thing. Tim, do you mind making me some hooks and stuff in the garage so I can hang grass? And I didn't even know about this wedding. And a few weeks later, she called after I had him make these hooks and dry the grass. She called and said, I really want a prairie landscape with grasses. And this is in November, and grasses, they're not at that stage in the spring when she had her wedding a couple weeks ago. So I'd already started collecting them. And so we had a grass wedding last week, and I was glad because that kind of got me out of the doghouse about collecting everything in the world. So the Greek meaning, they like the sand. They tolerate drought. And they're one of our natives underneath our live oak trees outside the garden that come up on their own. And the Greek meaning is fire. So ranunculus, I told you already about the snowstorm in 2021. So they're kind of a scary looking thing. They almost look like a dried tarantula or something, spider. And you've got to soak them in water that's aerated. So I took a hose and poked some holes in it so it squirts down in the bucket and makes bubbles. And so I put buckets and I turn on the water and I aerate them and soak them for 2 hours. And they plump up. And I usually plant about 500 at a time. So I planted those in the first couple weeks of December. And they withstand down to 21, 23 degrees without any kind of cover. But you know, one day, there were a couple days this year that got down to 18. So I did put some ground cloth over them. But they're, so the varieties at the farm, this is what I first started out with, some whites and burgundies and pinks. And this year I introduced that peach color that goes from kind of peachy to pink over there, and it's called champagne. And the darker kind of burgundy color, that's chocolate, and it does kind of have a golden brown hue to it. So you may think, oh, that's flowers a little old. For some reason, it's really trendy right now for brides to have, they call them muddy colors, to have those brown undertones and stuff. So mainly I grew those for the brides, but sometimes people pick them and they think, that's kind of looking a little brown, but that was actually intentional. And the Persian buttercup, and I got this from an article from the Catholic Digest, that it was, it's a dense whorl of petals. You'll see the delicate petals. I think there's about 150 petals on each flower. They're called the spring rose as well. And it said, this Catholic Digest said that they're mentioned in the Bible as one of the flowers in the field, the Persian buttercup. So they got to Texas just as soon as they could. I don't know exactly when we started thinking. They call it cool flowers. So my friend Charles over here grew up in Michigan. Was it Michigan? Charles, did I rename you? Richard, I did. I usually do that to my favorite students, if I rename you. Richard, these usually you see them up north there in the summer because they don't like it over 80 degrees. So 2 weeks ago when it was 90, they were, woof. That's why some of the stems are a little bit shorter than what I would prefer, but they don't like not when it gets over 80. So we grow them here during the winter. We kind of do a reverse season. If you were up north, you would plant them now, and they would bloom in June and July. So they're, we're going to talk about flower meanings, charm and attractiveness. That's one of the symbolisms of ranunculus, that it's for charm and attractiveness. And as I was talking to Ellen, something that's been on my heart lately is people feeling invisible at a certain age. You know, and I read an article when I was preparing for this that 90% of women at age 52 feel invisible. And I think the social media and all these different things in our society, I hate for a group to feel invisible, you know. And so, but we still have value in the different chapters of life. And I want to do an outreach and show people how you still have purpose and value, you know, and kind of fight that feeling of invisible. And I think your fellowship here together and your love for each other keeps you from feeling invisible. I think that's really important. Yep. Oh, okay, amen. Meaning of flowers in life. So if you would with your partner next to you, if you tell them, if you could think back when a good meaning of a flower in your life, was there a certain time, was there a rose at your grandmother's house or a meaning of a flower in your life? Or does anybody just want to share? Azaleas? Oh, in East Texas? Oh yes, it's beautiful in Tyler. They've got a beautiful historic downtown that has the Azalea Trail in Tyler. You think about roses, but azaleas are really pretty. That's a good memory. Have one over here?
Showing up at my grandmother's house after her irises had started to bloom.
Yes.
And I smelled them before I saw them.
Oh, yeah.
I saw them, they were beautiful.
Yes.
That is my favorite flower.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, yes. He's talking about his grandfather bred roses and came up with his own variety, hybrids. So that's really interesting. Yellow Rose of Texas. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's very distinctive. And lantana is a native Texas flower. They used to be out in our fields growing up. They're the native one that I always saw had a pink and yellow bloom, but now they've got so many different colors. But lantanas are very pretty, and they stand the drought. I like that. Oh, yeah, yeah, I did, and carnations are having a revival. They're using all different colors now. Of course, they're dyeing them and tinting them, but they're kind of having a comeback. And they have a little bit of artificial smell in the store, but I accidentally grew some carnations last year, and they smelled like cinnamon out in the field. The ones, kind of like it's hard to find roses that have any smell these days. They've kind of changed the carnations for that vase life, to be shipped, to be everywhere. So something whenever I started this too, I don't know if how I'm doing on time, but I see it right there. I'm gonna do everything. So whenever I started looking into flower farms and things, flower farming in the United States, so back in the 80s, we got 90% of our flowers from the United States. Now, we only get about 15% from the United States growers. And so there's a local flower movement. Kind of during COVID, you might have heard the local food. It's a 35, 45-mile radius. Does everybody know that how far are the courthouses in Texas away from each other? They're about 35, 40 miles because it was a day's horseback ride from county seat to county seat is how they set that up. So the farmers could they wouldn't have to spend a lot of time out of the field. They could go up to their courthouse and they'd be close. And then the circuit judges, had a day's trip between the counties. So local flowers is about the size of our county. Local food, they were saying, buy it from producers in your local area. So local flowers have kind of started that trend, and there's some people that are kind of snobby about it. I do weddings that have flown in flowers and local flowers. Because do you remember what was Nancy Reagan's war on drugs? Do you remember the slogan, Nancy Reagan? Just say no. That started the flower farm. Sometimes we don't ever know what programs impact each other. So they gave an incentive to South American farmers instead of growing drugs to grow flowers. And that's when the big shift happened. Then we started getting our flowers from South America. So some people are against the flown flowers. I still think that has a good purpose. So I kind of use a little bit of everything. So the meaning of flowers to me, my great-grandmother, Martha Ferris, and this is why I'm talking about planting a seed. You never know what you're going to do. I never met her, but I've got some clippings that came out of a little can that was in her house, and she grew those phlox, and she collected roses. And I have some friends that back home, I didn't know, they said whenever they're going to go work on their ranch, they say, we're going to dress like Martha. She was a big German woman, and she wore what are the ones like the train?
train overalls, like the train conductors wear. She wore overalls and had her hair up in a bun. With her first husband, she unloaded all the feed out on the back dock to the farmers. She plowed a field with mules by herself, and she dressed like a man. But she had this love of flowers. And another thing is, my mom would, my dad wasn't a believer, so he didn't really want us to go to church. But my mom would sing me little Bible songs, and my great-grandmother left a Bible that had a pressed rose in it. And I would look at that rose, and she had names of when people were born and passed away in her Bible. And it was in a closet where my Legos and stuff were in the extra bedroom, but I would sneak in there. I wasn't supposed to, but I'd sneak in there and I'd look at that Bible. And so years later, my neighbors invited me to go to church with them, to Sunday school, and I got saved, but it started, you never know what you're going to leave behind by the next generation. Just a little piece of paper, your Bible, some little seed you're planting. She probably never knew that. Almost skipped over my dad. But, who would have thought that I would have found her Bible hidden in a closet? So she had an impact. And my mom and my grandmother. My mom said my grandmother kept me too much because I take off after my grandmother. We spent a lot of time together. My mom had planted all those flowers because my grandmother's knees were bad, but she took care of them, and she was garden she wasn't part of the garden club, but they nominated her as Yard of the Month back several years ago. So our ranunculus, this is the meaning that I like more than the first one, of hope and new beginnings. Because as we go through, there's so many chapters, and hopefully we always have hope and new beginnings. And phlox, the little flower I passed around, I learned this researching for this presentation. Our souls are united. Isn't that nice? I like that. And baby's breath is everlasting love, and heaven and faith. So we're going to have baby's breath and ranunculus over there today in the bouquet that you take home. So I really appreciate Ellen and Pastor Joe reaching out to me and putting this together and having the opportunity to come speak to you guys. Upcoming farm events. We've got dinners in the garden. We've got an Easter brunch. I have a gospel lunch on April the 7th. Going to have old-time gospel songs and a lunch in the garden. I'm going to have, on April the 6th, I'm going to have a chuck wagon cooking workshop. You can sign up for the chuck wagon cooking. He's going to have cowboy coffee, biscuits. He calls it egg pie, cowboy egg pie, but it's really quiche. And a peach cobbler for everybody that goes to the class. So I wanted to do something different, and I invited people to come out and play bluegrass music and have a bluegrass jam that Saturday also. So trying some new things on the farm, and we want to enjoy it. So then we'll have some things in October, and I'll let you guys know about that. But things will be fairly quiet. I've got I think 10 weddings between April and October. So I'll be doing weddings and growing some bright flowers and things for those brides. But I appreciate your time. Thank you, and I think you may see me again. Thank you. Sorry. Can you turn me back on? So what we're going to do is, I've got clear vases, but they're all a little bit different shape. So pick out which one that makes your heart happy over there. And then you're going to come through the ranunculus, and you're going to pick 3 blooms, okay? And you're going to bring those 3 blooms down to me, and I'm going to shape it a little bit and put it in your bud vase for you, and then you can take that. They're taking them home to enjoy them? Taking them home to enjoy them. So that's how we're gonna do that. You start over here and get your bud vase, select 3 blooms, and then I'll do the final touches on it. And I've got a business card over there too, if you would like to take that. Poor man's pepper, they actually use it, if you taste this, it actually has a peppery taste. They used it as seasoning in the poor man's pepper. Poor man's pepper, and they used to use it in the pioneer days as seasoning. So, okay, I'm about 4 miles off of I-10. It's in Seguin. Yeah. It's more kind of towards the Marion Way, over that way. So, all right, if y'all want to file over here and pick out your vase.
Okay, so work your way over to the table, find a vase, pick out your flowers, and then move over to the tables for lunch. And when people are almost done gathering their flowers, we'll pray together.